What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SnowBikeMike HypeCast for episode 6, our weekly podcast where we dive deep into all of the awesome games that we've been playing in the video game world, and then, of course, talk about some topics in the news world that we like to bring up, like Fallout 76 and Fallout First, new BlizzCon news, and all that jazz in between. But, of course, today I'm joined by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Bock for President 2020, Tom Bock. What is going on, Tom Bock? How are you?
Dude, don't drag me into that world. I want nothing to do with politics and presidential runs, and that shit drives me crazy.
Tom Bock is back. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a HypeCast, so we might not jump into the news on this episode because we've been playing a whole lot of games. The fall season is upon us, Tom, and it's almost there to that holiday period where we're just going to continue to play games until the new year. So, Tom, let's just jump into it. What games have you and I been playing? I want to kick it off with The Outer Worlds from Obsidian Entertainment. Now, Obsidian was purchased by Microsoft, but Microsoft allowed their first game in the studio to be released on all platforms. So, if you're out there on the PlayStation or PC, you can play Outer Worlds. But guess what? It's on Xbox Game Pass, and you got to get it on that. I mean, $2 for 2 months right now is the sale they've been running. Why would you not jump all over that? And Outer Worlds is incredible. If you like Fallout, if you like Firefly or any sort of sci-fi show, it is all of that in between. Tom, we were talking before the show. You haven't even touched Outer Worlds, correct?
Which is really crazy. So like the excuse me, as we talk about these games we've been playing, man, it has been the weirdest fall for me because all these games coming out, every year I struggle with the backlog problem. We get lots of games. You know, you're a streamer, so you kind of dabble. We've talked before about, do you play a bunch of games for a couple hours? So I've been in this weird mode of like, what game do I think I'm going to sink a ton of hours into? And if I wasn't quite sure, I didn't get it started because I know there's some big games coming out, like the Star Wars game, like Death Stranding, that are going to be these giant, 40, 50, 60-hour games. And for some crazy reason, I just haven't started the Outer Worlds yet at all, which is really sad because it was actually one of the games I was most looking forward to. But I've been playing a bunch of other stuff. I just didn't get this one. So, man, I'm excited to hear about it and run me through, dude. I know nothing about it at all.
Tom, you actually really hit a great point there. There's a lot of games out right now that are vying for my attention, from Destiny 2 to Call of Duty, Outer Worlds, Luigi's Mansion, everything in between. And for some odd reason, every single day, any sort of minutes, I want to play the Outer Worlds. I want to continue this story. I want to keep playing this game, and it's got me. I really enjoy it. I was a big fan of Fallout New Vegas. Of course, Obsidian made that title back in the day. I've loved all the Fallouts. I've loved all the Elder Scrolls, and this game really gets it in between all of those. They have great dialogue. The combat is fun. It's just like it's just like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. So you're not going to get any sort of crazy combat. You're not going to get tight gunplay like Borderlands 3 or Call of Duty that we've been playing really in this holiday period. But the combat is fun. It's good enough for what it is. Stealth is a little lacking, but everything in between from the story and everything happening is really, really well done. It starts off, it has a lot of humor in it. It's got some points where you're kind of sticking it to the man. It's anti-corporation, and it's truly a sci-fi western is what it feels like. It feels like it's Fallout mixed with Firefly, one of my favorite TV shows, and I am a space pirate just roaming around space, doing really whatever I want. And of course, with that Fallout nature, you can truly kill everybody on the map and just continue to progress. I killed one town. I killed every single person inside of it because I am the space pirate. And it didn't punish me. Nothing crazy happened because I've never gone back to that town. So that was a big one. But I want to touch on a couple of things. Of course, the companions were a big one added, right? We've seen it in Fallout before and Elder Scrolls where you kind of have this companion and they just kind of run around next to you. They might say some one-liners. I find that these companions are way deeper, right? I can jump into their inventory, choose their weapons, change their look and outfit with a different outfit that I can give them. They also have a skill tree and a progression tree, so they level up alongside of you, and you can actually choose 4 skills on each level to choose from. One of those skills is like character special. So one guy might help add to your charisma to talk to people. One person might add to maybe your melee damage, and so on, so in between, which is really cool that each one has very similar ones, but one row on each of them is very unique to just that character. You can choose up to 2 companions to go out into the world with you, which is really cool. So you can have up to 6 companions that you can find throughout the gameplay, and every time you leave your ship, you can choose 2 of them to come with you. So it's like, do I want that ranged character? Do I want to bring 2 melee-focused ones? And they all have this special ability that, you use it, and then it takes a little bit of time to rejuvenate and get back ready to go. And it's really
cool. It's
like
Mass Effect almost, right?
Oh, it's,
you have 6 people sitting on your ship, and you just pick the ones you want to go every time.
That's a good way to describe it, is right, Tom? Yeah. And so, they level up with you. They all have, like, the one girl that I've been talking with has her own story, right? She's fallen in love with this person that we met on a spaceship before, and she's been emailing her back and forth. She asked me, hey, can we go back to that ship? I want to talk to her. We go to a bar, we drink together, we kind of progress her story a little bit, and it feels like I'm making a connection with that person. The other guy, we went on a hunt for a person together. That was really fun. And so I really love the companions in this video game, from not only their combat and skill tree to being able to more develop a relationship with them and get to know who they are personally, as opposed to when I was running around Fallout with a giant, mutant behind me just shooting things, and he would say one-liners and then fall over and die and get picked back up.
Or even your dog or something,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I love the companions. I'm loving the combat, right? It's just like any Fallout and or Elder Scrolls. There's a time slowdown mechanic where you can slow down time and shoot things, whether it be in the head, the legs, wherever you want to go with it. Time dilation is what they call it, instead of the VAT system. And then it's just like Fallout, where you grab a certain gun. They all have their different stuff, from laser beams to semi-automatic pistols. They also have these scientific weapons that I haven't oddly found yet in my 12 hours of gameplay. I don't know if I'm missing it or not. But they all do different things, and it feels just like Fallout, right? I aim the gun, I shoot the gun at somebody until they finally die. It's nothing special or spectacular, but I really like that in a game like this, especially coming from Obsidian. This is what I expected. I didn't expect for them to break the mold and give me some incredible gunplay on a game that's kind of focused more on your narrative, your story that you're creating in this open world, truly free video game that you can play, instead of, hey, here's super tight gun mechanics, and that's where we put all of our focus into.
So on that front, though, I got a question for you. So is it, if you think about, are you in VATS all the time so that there really is no challenge at all, or was it more like Fallout 4 where it was trying to make it a little bit action-y, and you could kind of jump in and out of VATS, but you were still doing some amount of, ADS and normal combat, or is it pretty much all just RPG style, VAT style combat?
No, not at all. It's shooting? More freedom. So it's like Fallout 4, where it's more action. It's, free fire from the hip, aim down the sights, and your time dilation, the VATS, is much smaller, right? Like, you use it, and it probably goes for like 3 to 5 seconds at the most after you start to upgrade it. And that it doesn't break down the body parts. It literally just slows down time. You can shoot them, if you aim well enough in a certain area, and then it goes away. So it's not focused like Fallout 3, where it was, hey, here's the VAT system. You're going to use it all the time. It's more like 4, where it's like, hey, you're going to shoot from the hip like a Borderlands, but we'll give you the slowdown mechanic when you want to use it, if the time is right, which, it's pretty cool to use. I actually don't use it that much. I never found the VAT system to be the way that I wanted to play. I'd rather shoot from the hip and aim down the sights and kind of keep it free moving like that.
Dude, me too. That's how I always played those games. Once they were manageable, because some of the early Fallout games, you couldn't even, you almost had to use VATS
exactly.
to shoot. So how much, man, first of all, I can't believe I haven't played this game yet. It's so funny. Like, if you would have asked me 3 months ago what games I was, collectively looking the most forward to, this one would have for sure been on top of the list. And it was just the weird timing of all the other stuff that I was into. I think it's been out, 2 weeks now, roughly, or so. Man, I have no idea how I didn't get to it yet. It's just kind of pissing me off now that I'm hearing about it, because I'm dying to it. So give me the balance of time that you're spending in combat versus doing all the other stuff. Like, there's a lot of combat. A lot of combat.
Okay. Oh no, it's a lot of combat. Inventory management is very minimal. You have almost like stim packs almost, but I find that it's just like Elder Scrolls and Fallout where you can pick up everything in the world. And you know me, Tom. I am a hoarder when it comes to that kind of game.
Ditto.
Where I just start grabbing everything in between. But I noticed there's a lot of food and drink items that maybe like in an Elder Scrolls you might eat to get health back, right? In this one, I found that I've never had to use that. I've have enough stim packs to use. I shoot enough people. I don't die enough to ever be like, what is this food for? So I seem in my backpack to have lists upon lists of different food and drink that I've picked up that literally are pointless to me, but it's underneath like the health regeneration area. So somewhere you can use that if you really wanted to.
If you needed
stop
to.
the game, jump into that menu. I don't find it to be like Fallout or Elder Scrolls where I'm diving into my backpack all that often. You pick up guns pretty regularly, but they seem to be very similar in style. Like I said, like there's guns, there's melee weapons, and then there's these items called scientific weapons that I haven't seen yet. And you've seen them in the commercial. That's the gun where you shoot at somebody and then all of a sudden they shrink like Ant-Man. Or you shoot them and something weird happens. I haven't found those. So it seems like you kind of pick up the same, sword or assault rifle or shotgun over and over again. And they do have a durability system. So your gun could maybe break or go down in damage if you haven't repaired it or switched it out. And so really for me, I haven't found that I've needed that or really looked into it. I've found my 4 weapons that I want. My 2 companions have different weapons and we seem to be fine. So inventory management, pretty minimal in this game that I've seen so far. And I haven't really worried about it. Definitely want to touch on, of course, the world itself, right? You're in outer space. One of the first times from like a Fallout or Elder Scrolls where all of a sudden here you are in outer space getting to be a space cowboy doing whatever you want. They have a good mix of probably, I would say 8 to 12 different planets that you can fly to, do different missions on. They have a really cool space carrier ship that you go to and you're inside the ship running around. That's a mini town. Gives you almost like BioShock feels of how like the neon signs or being inside this big kind of structure, and it almost feels like a world inside of something similar to BioShock where you're in the dome, And so it's really cool to see that, feel that. I think all the worlds are very unique. They're beautiful. They're bright. They're vibrant. Each one feels different, right? You could be on one planet that literally feels like the moon, right? All you can see is the stars and the black space around you, and then a very like bland white planet with a couple of broken ships, and that's it. And then you could go to another planet where it's like rainforest type feel, bright lights, colors are everywhere, scary different animals all around you. So it's really, really cool with the setting I like. I love the story so far. I'm really enjoying it. From side quests are still your generic, right? Go over here, kill that person, or grab my research, come back to me. I don't think anyone's really breaking the mold on story quests or side quests in this kind of video game, but it's all fun and rewarding, right? I continue to level up. I see that ding. I get to put points into something. I get to put a skill point into something, which I like. And for me, I really doubled down this time on being something different that I'm normally not, right? In Elder Scrolls and Fallout, I always want to be the good guy. I always want to be more melee or bow and arrow focused, and I want to just do combat. In this one, I've really focused on trying to be the bad guy, making different decisions that I normally would not make, and I doubled down on charisma, intimidation. There's another speech option, and then gadgetry.
I never do those. I never do the like talk your way out of.
And it's really cool, Tom. Of like I never do those, but now I have endless options every time I go to a side mission, a story mission, or just talking to somebody out in public. Those options pop up for me all the time, and because I put so many points into it, I can use them freely all the time. Like my lie and intimidation are up to 80 each, right? And so like they'll pop up and be like 5, 10, maybe the highest one I've seen is 50 so far. And so I'll lie to somebody or intimidate them to doing what I want instead of having to do what they want or not getting the outcome where I would have to go off and do something else. So I really like taking that kind of alternate path that I never would have done. And it's really paying off for me. It's super fun and really rewarding. Cool. And like I said, I love being the bad guy now, right? I show up to this town and it's really all corporation. They're making people pay for their own grave sites. This guy is working a cannery and he's the manager, and he wants me to go over to this little baby town of refugees that's run away and trying to make their own, and he wants me to steal their stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like this guy at all. And promise to God, Tom, I started off and I straight up just shot the guy. I shot and killed him right off the bat. I didn't even do the mission. I didn't leave anywhere.
Oh
I shot and killed the guy, and the lady looked at me. She goes, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" I go, "Because he was treating you poorly." And she goes, "Well, thank you. I really appreciate that." And the story kept going. I didn't have to restart.
Wow.
It didn't break anything. The story kept going if I wanted to. And so I restarted. I did the mission. I came back after I did the mission. I chose to save the refugees, and then I killed every single person in that town. Every single person, Tom. I killed them
murderous
all.
rampage.
And nothing was like punished for me. The game continued to go. No issues. It is really cool, and I highly...
Do you think it's going to change, though? Like, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that the fact that you did that's going to actually change the story, or do you think it's just sort of like a hollow, yeah, there's choices you can make, but they don't really have a big impact on what happens next?
I feel like in the first world, which I'm talking about now, the first planet, there, from what I heard, there's 5 different story options that you could have gone with, right? And I saw 3 of them could have played out, and I chose to do one.
Okay.
And then I killed the guy right afterwards. And I have thankfully not gone back to that planet to see what happens. But I will tell you, somebody asked me about that planet, and I quickly was like, one of my options was like, "Oh, you don't want to go there. Nothing's cool there. Nothing's cool there."
Okay.
Like, you could tell he was trying to be like,
So
"No,
maybe
don't go to that
could've.
planet," you know?
Right. Yeah, maybe that's what's fascinating about these two. And I think, they're really, really well designed of that style, which I think New Vegas was, really fit this, which was there was a lot of different ways the story could have played out. It wasn't just a handful. There's a whole bunch of different possibilities. And I always wonder with these, like, because you're only going to see the story you're going to see. You have no idea what would have happened if you hadn't done it that way, unless you watch somebody else stream it or you read about it. So I'm super interested. Now, go back to one thing, too, because I know when I was reading a bunch of the reviews, and I want to, you and I always have this conversation about game difficulty, and you always kind of want to go on easy baby mode to get through stuff and all that, right? And I'm the opposite. I'm make it hard, not punishing, but make it really hard so I feel a sense of achievement, etc. I did read that this game definitely has kind of a balancing issue with that if you play on, I think it was whatever the equivalent of normal was, like the reviewer I read, so he didn't even die one time the entire game. But that if you went to the next one up, that at least at the beginning, it was incredibly tedious, dying over and over and over until you got, again, I haven't played the game, so I don't know the systems, but until you were leveled up enough to kind of handle it. What's your experience been with the difficulty levels? Has it been easy, hard? Where do you fall on it?
Tom, that is a great question. I'm happy to answer it. So I've been playing on normal. I do find it to tend to be way easier, right? I haven't found a spot where, well, I'm going to bring up a spot, but I haven't seemed in my hours to find a time where anything is overly difficult. The only time that I'll die is if I kind of get pinched in by about 5 enemies and forget to quickly stim pack or just get overwhelmed at certain times, because we talked about the stealth in this game, very bad. It's not good at all because there is no stealth kill. So when you walk up to somebody behind them and essentially you'd be in a stealth mode, you either have to shoot them or bash them over the head, which then is going to alert everybody in general. There is no stealth to this game, unfortunately. So the only time I've ever died is being overwhelmed or forgetting to hit the stim pack button fast enough. I will say there is a moment in this video game, you're probably like me, right? You're pushing through it, you're progressing, you're having a great time, everything's easy. I've gotten to a new planet now where it says, be careful, these enemies are going to be pretty difficult. Like, there's a clear sign of, like, you seem to be under-leveled here. And I've landed, and I will tell you that these enemies that I'm encountering right now are punishing. I mean, they are so tough, Tom, that I'm actually at a loss of, like, did I miss a bunch of side quests? Why are they so difficult? Because they're these giant praying mantises, and they will eat both of my companions in moments, and then they will turn to me, and if I don't start running the opposite way or trying to duck and dodge them, I will die right away. So I've now found where I'm at right now in the story and on this planet. For some reason, I'm under-leveled, and it is not easy anymore where we're just shooting things, and I'm having a blast, and it's not hard at all. It definitely has changed for me.
Okay, I think when I'm going to do it, man, and I can't wait to get into it too, because I really do want to have a much more thorough conversation once I have spent the time with it. Maybe I'll go on the harder one, and we can talk about sort of what that is. the differences in this game, how are your companions? Are they worthless? Do they
No, they're
actually
awesome.
kind of hold? They're awesome.
Yeah.
Are they too awesome though? I mean, are they?
No,
Are they just taking shit out? You can just stand like not to change gears. I'm in Borderlands now, and my dog is so powerful. Like I can literally walk into a spot and I can just open chests, and while he does all the work, like I don't even have to pay attention to the fights at all.
I wouldn't say it's me standing around and them doing it all because we're really engaged together, but I would say maybe it would feel different if I was running solo and it might be a little bit more difficult. I think they're the perfect balance for me of like, because a lot of these camps are 5 to 20 people, like, and they're all going to start running at you. So it's really nice to have me shooting at one guy. I target another guy with one of my companions, like, do your special move. Now just shoot at him. Hey, you over there, do your special move on this guy, then shoot at him. So it's a nice little, kind of balance to be able to say, hey, do that, do this. And I find that they're not breaking the game, but they're not weighing me down. They're just right for me, I think.
Just right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're a really good one.
This game sounds so good, man. I can't wait to get into it. Like but next time we record, I promise I'll have dropped some hours into this thing and we'll have some fun talking. This is so much my kind of game. And again, I got sidetracked on these other ones we're going to talk about in a minute, but this game sounds. Now, here's the real question for you, because with all your start games but never finish them, you going to see this one through? Are you going to get to the end of this one?
Correct. So I'll end it with this. I am 100% going to finish this because this game is actually much smaller, a little more linear than a Fallout and or an Elder Scrolls. A lot of talk is this game can be beaten within about 20, maybe 40 if you're really taking your time. So this is a much smaller product. So I know that I will, and I've been telling you, I've been itching to play this game, right? I would be playing Call of Duty and in the back of my mind go, man, I'd much rather play Outer Worlds. I'm playing Lonely Mountains Downhill. Man, I'd rather play this. And it's really odd because when we've had these conversations, me as a streamer, right, I always find it difficult to play these single-player games where it's more narrative-driven. It's harder to talk over their dialogue. My best friend community might want to play it themselves, or they don't want to be spoiled. And for me, it's like, I want to play this game. Like, I don't care about anything else. I just want to play it. So I'm definitely going to see it through. I'm really happy with Obsidian Entertainment. I love those guys and gals out there. They're an incredible team. I'm happy Microsoft purchased them. I really hope that it sells well. I'm excited to see what their next title will be and to see that question, right, of like, does Microsoft make it exclusive to the next Xbox, or will they, just like they did with this one, open it up to all platforms, kind of rake in all the revenue like we've talked about, instead of being just strictly exclusive? Let everybody buy the game because it's only bringing in more money for us. But I would say this, if you're on Xbox, you have Xbox Game Pass, you should download this immediately and start playing it. It's a ton of fun, and I'll end it with that. Tom, let's move on to our next game. I think both of us have been playing. What are we talking about now?
I think Destiny 2, man. I've been plunging some serious hours into this thing, and I'm the worst Destiny player in the world when it comes to just play it when the patches, or not the patches, whenever the new DLC hits. I play it for like a month. I get all excited, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to do the raids. I can't wait to do all the Nightfall strikes, and I get so energized, and then I totally fade off. I don't play it again for a year. Then we go to PAX and we see like the incredible community behind this game. And it's like I fall into the same trap every year of not playing it as much as I wish or I thought that I was going to. Although I will say, man, this may be the one that actually does kind of suck me in. And I know getting through raids is really tough and grindy, and I'm not sure it's totally my thing to do that. But with the right group of people, I'm sure it could be. But dude, here's a real funny thought that as I was thinking about preparing to talk about this game, can you imagine, and this isn't to say what Bungie's done has been perfect by any means, but you think about this initial vision they had to say, hey, we're going to have this 10-year game, right? And everybody laughed at them when it first came out, like there was no way they were going to do this. And however many years we are into it now, and this thing is kind of, progressing, and there's so much content there, some that I didn't even finish, that if I look at my director is still, half done. But dude, can you imagine being a game developer right now in 2019, trying to come up with a new IP for a games as a service kind of game that's going to live forever and trying to compete with this? Can you imagine just trying to invent all of this? And, it's so expansive and it's so deep, and they've had trial and error, and they've had all these things that have led to this game that it is today. Dude, this game is so big now that I can't even, I get lost even just trying to do some of the basic stuff because there's so many things sort of competing for, is there a mission? Am I doing multiplayer? Am I doing Gambit? Am I doing all these different planets have all these other things? I mean, dude, this game is so enormous that I shudder to think of being a game developer and be like, oh my God, we got to compete with freaking Destiny. Can you imagine? Like, it's just, it's so huge.
Tom, you said it perfectly, and I'll piggyback off of that. I always use the comparison of like how World of Warcraft became the staple MMO RPG for everyone on that PC universe, right? Like everybody's built games to try to mimic that. Destiny and Destiny 2 on the console world is the staple for that MMO action RPG. Everybody has to look at them and say, how do we get like that? How do we create a world that people will want to be in, live in, and play in every single day for years to come? And I think, those are the two pillars. When I think of these kind of games, you look at one on console, one on PC, every developer is looking up like, what do we do to make that,
How do you even start? And I think the challenge that they've always had, and I think this one is, at least what I've seen so far, and look, I'm never going to be the 20-hour a week player like some people, just because I don't have the time to play that much. And I know that a lot of the criticism of some of these, once you get past the campaigns, is it too grindy, right? Who are they catering to? Are they catering to the people who you and I saw at PAX West standing in line for 2 hours who are going to play it, literally thousands of hours? Or are they catering more to me or you who are just going to pick it up and I don't want to say play it sparingly, but they're not going to play it a ton, but they still feel like they're going to progress. And to me, man, that is like the hardest challenge for these games is, how do you satisfy everybody? Because so many people are, oh, there's not enough meat on the bone. You think of like when the Division 2 ended, it's like, is there enough stuff there to keep, because not everybody's the same. Not everybody's a hardcore player. Not everybody's going to put that kind of time into it. So you got to have stuff for them, but you also got to have stuff, for people that are only going to, they still want to feel the amount of progression, commensurate with the amount of time that they spend with it. And dude, from what I can see so far, they really seem to have figured that part of this out. Cause I feel like I'm progressing. I think I haven't, I have to guess at how many hours I played of the new of Shadowfall. It's maybe 25, maybe 35 hours somewhere, the Shadowkeep in that range somewhere. So I've played enough to feel like I'm invested in everything, but I'm also starting to get some exotics. And I never feel like there's a shortage of stuff for me to go do. And it's not grindy stuff. It's like actually interesting. Hey, go to this planet and do this thing. Man, of course, the shooting is amazing. It's just gorgeous, dude. This game has gotten prettier and prettier. The assets that they use over time. Like I said, I can't imagine trying to compete with this game if I'm anybody else, because the bar is just set so high. Yeah, it's still got its problems, and I'm sure many people that play it constantly can point those out. But I really think this is as good as Destiny's been. At least for me, this is as good as it's been since it's been launched.
I agree, Tom. Fully agree, and I have a lot of thoughts on this one. But I will say, I believe that they've found a perfection of balance with the end game grind, as we will refer to it, of where we've played a lot. Me and Tagato and Kevin Ace, we've fallen in love with it, and I'll really touch base on that here shortly. But to address the grind, I feel like you automatically jump to 750 with the new expansion. You start to do the story. You're going to end at about 850 to 900 area. Yep. And yes, it feels like, oh man, this is going to take forever to get to 920 to be raid ready, to get up to 950 after all those weapons. And, day by day, step by step, you slowly start to grab certain items that will get you to start climbing up, right? Like all of a sudden you're 850, now you're 900, now you're 902, 903. And I think Destiny has found a really good groove since Destiny 1 into Destiny 2 and how many expansions we've gone of like, there are so many options every single day, like Tom just said, from playing PvP to Gambit with the PvE PvP mode, or just straight up playing like story missions or side missions where you every single day can log on, have whatever you want in between to do that, and be rewarded each and every day for that. You can go down and get dailies, get weeklies, run strikes, play Gambit, play PvP, and every single aspect of this game will reward you to the point where you are steadily climbing. Now you're 903, 904, 905, 912, and you're making those jumps. And so I really think they found a perfect way of, it feels rewarding for hardcore players, and it also feels rewarding for maybe casual players like me and Tom, where I don't have that much time, but I know I have thousands of items that I could do that will help me progress, and I can do one, get a piece of reward that makes me feel better. You do two, feel that way. And I think they've done a really good job on the kind of upgrading your weapon. So if you get a weapon that's higher than your current weapon status, if you don't want to switch that weapon, right, you have a legendary or an exotic, you can straight up just put it into that weapon and it will automatically jump to that level.
Which is very cool.
Back in the past with Destiny 1, if you had 907 and you had like a 904 gun, it would be like a roll of a dice. This might only go up to 905. Now it's guaranteed it's going to 97 no matter what, which is awesome. It feels so rewarding to like kind of pick out your guns. Or for me, a lapsed Destiny 2 player, when I rebooted it up, all my characters were saved. All of my exotics were there. And I could look at like one cool exotic that I really loved and somebody be like, oh, that's actually decent right now here in the meta. Boom, I put one gun into that thing. It is now shot up, and it's actually viable in the gameplay. So I think they found a perfect way of really finding the balance of that grind. And on the flip side, this is terrific. I just said I'm a lapsed player. I played Destiny 2 all the way up to the first raid boss, never touched it again. I think that's like a year and a half since that happened, Tom. And we got Shadowkeep, and I have fallen in love with it. Me, Tegado, Kevin, loved it, loved it, loved it. We haven't stopped playing it. We thought the story, like you said, bold, beautiful, eerie, super cool, all the story missions. And then once you beat that, to be like, okay, here's endless opportunities to do whatever you want. See you later. And us to just do Gambit, PvP, we'll do side quests, we're doing the Vex Offensive, we're doing story, or we're doing strikes. I love Destiny right now. It's been a blast, and I'm having so much fun with Shadowkeep.
Dude, it's I mean, I really can't give it any higher praise than to say that it really is an impossible task for somebody to imagine starting a game over just because of that depth. And the thing that they've also, at least to me, nailed, and I think this is where I dropped off. So you talk about lapsed players. Where I dropped off last time, I kept wandering into situations, or I'll say even really missions, but spots where I was clearly out over the end of my skis. I was getting my ass kicked because, dude, there's some incredibly difficult parts of that game, especially when you get into some of the strikes. And I've just never been a big multiplayer guy, right? I mean, I like multiplayer co-op a lot. There's a bunch of stuff that I would definitely play if I didn't feel like I was just going to get overwhelmed by it. And they've just done a really good job of making that's just the toughest thing with any game, is to make it for everybody. And they've done that. At least to me, they've done that. So I can't wait to play more of it. So what's the story on the raids? Are they, I don't even know that I know kind of what's coming. That's perfect.
I wanted to touch on the raids for you. Me and you are kind of casual lapsed players. And I think a really cool opportunity in Destiny Shadowkeep and now Destiny New Light, if you want to download it for free and play for free, is you automatically get bumped up to 750. Guess what? All of the old raids are at 750 right now. So you could jump in day one and play the old raids from the previous years of Destiny 2. You could be at 902, like I'm sure you and I are, and you could actually go back and play those raids. They're at 750, so yes, you will run through them, we'll call it, but you get to see how beautiful, how big, the different dynamics, the different, mechanics of these raids are, which I think is a really cool feature to be able to jump back into the old raids, play those, and see what they really look like. Because that first raid that I remember the most was so cool, from the bass to the dogs and the maze in between, and then to the final boss. And to know that that's at 750, it's not going to punish me and my friends. You could easily get 6 friends, because you're all 750 plus. You could easily get 6 friends to jump into that. You don't have to worry about the new raid we'll talk about, where it's like you got to be that 920 area, and it kind of scares people off of like, that means I have to grind to get to that. But in reality, if you play the story mode, if you do a little bit of grinding with the dailies and weeklies and stuff, you could get up to 920 in your first week, and there's plenty of friends that could play it with you. So I think they've done a great job of like getting lapsed players and new players into this, giving them all the backlog of stuff and the new stuff, and it's a good balance of in between.
Dude, I'm so excited to do it. And the number of times in my life that I've said, I'm going to do the raid, I'm going to do a raid, I'm going to do it. And I always, like I'll watch people on Twitch and people are like, oh my God, it's 8 hours long, or it's what I'm just like, I'm never going to find the spot. Dude, we're going to find the spot. We're going to do it. I have to experience it. It's the best content in the game from everything that I've seen, some of the puzzles and the way that they come together. So this, we're making this one happen.
Write it
Take
down.
Otto wherever you are. We're making this one happen.
Anybody listening, write it down. I mean, the best opportunity right now for Tom, right, is like, hey, guess what, Tom? We could log on right now with all of our friends and just play the old raids. They're all 750. We have like 3 raids to do, so that's super awesome. Destiny 2.
4. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch, but like either way, Destiny 2 and Shadowkeep, incredible. I'm loving it, Tom.
I love it too, man.
Let's move on to our next game. Another big one that just released on Halloween. A little spooky action right now, Tom Bock. Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Nintendo Switch. I got to play this at E3. I have never played a Luigi's Mansion before. I'm not a big Nintendo guy. Yeah, I bought my old girlfriend Luigi's Mansion 2, but she never let me play it. I don't think she even played it either. But I'm not a big Nintendo guy, so I don't play many of these games. And I have to say, from Legend of Zelda, or what was that one called, Link's Awakening, to this, I am fully invested on playing my Switch, enjoying these Nintendo mainstays, because we talked about it with Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. That was really the first Zelda game I've ever played in my entire life right there up to that date.
That's so
and
crazy.
Now here I am playing the first ever Luigi's Mansion, and these two games, I'm like, wow, they are so much fun. They're so cute. They're so rewarding. They're not difficult, so it never feels like I'm bashing my head against the wall. And these are fun. And I got to say, I had a terrific Halloween playing Luigi's Mansion 3, and I think you're playing it too, huh, Tom?
I am, and I think I may just be just a tiny little bit ahead of you. And it's fantastic. I mean, the thing about the Nintendo proper games is they're just so well made. Everything about them is so well made. I mean, I've always sort of wondered how Nintendo has been so much past everybody else when it comes to polish and lack of bugs and all the stuff that seem to plague so many other, big games. This game it's absolutely beautiful, and it's just cute enough to not be like sort of overly stupidly cute, right? You still feel they did a good enough job. There's like a lot of little winks and little nods to things throughout the entire game. There's a couple of things that are a little bit bugging me, like you and I talked about, the fact that the tutorial beginning part, I won't even call it tutorial, seemed like it went on for a little bit too long, which it may not if the game is longer than what it may be. It seemed like they didn't really let you loose to go do all your stuff. Took a little bit to kind of get there. And then the only other thing that I'll complain about, and it's a really mild complaint, is the controls do get a little bit funky at times, right? And the gyroscope on my Pro controller helps quite a bit, so you can kind of aim up and sideways. But man, there's an early boss battle, and I don't want to spoil too much of it, but you got to kind of pull something in your vacuum and shoot it out, and you got to kind of aim it. And man, it was really frustrating because I kept doing it over and over, and I wasn't turned, 90 degrees enough this way. And it's just a lot to kind of maneuver some of those gyroscopy controls, but it's so good. And by the way, it does get a little bit harder. Like I said, I'm a little bit ahead of you. So I've died a couple times, weirdly. I haven't died a bunch, but it is just the right level of it's cute enough, hard enough. I can't wait to see where it goes because I'm a huge Luigi's Mansion fan in general. This is one of the games I was looking most forward to.
Tom, I'm loving it, and I think I look away from some of those negatives that you just brought up because it is so cute and so, colorful and beautiful. Like, I'm really blown away coming from Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening to this of like, whoa, look at how bright this game is. Look at these cool 3D animations. Look at the graphics on both of these games. They're so cool, so awesome. And I will agree with you. The controls are punishing. They hurt me sometimes, Tom, of like, it's literally just that little turn or else you'll miss it. And Luigi's Mansion is, you see the ghost pop up and you're kind of stunned for a second, and then you try to get over to it, and he's just winding up. And if you don't get that flashlight just right on him, you have to like run away and reset yourself. So it really is punishing with the controls sometimes, and I wish it was just a little bit tighter on that. And I had that feeling from E3 when I played it over there with the Nintendo team. But I will say, once you kind of get in rhythm with it, you kind of overcome that, and you just know it's part of the game, and you reset yourself. I found a really fun one of like, you have the plunger to stick onto things, And
Yeah.
at first,
And
right,
then
like
pull it.
we're talking about the controls of like, man, this is too tough to just aim that. And if you hold down the button, you can kind of get a little aimer similar to Roller Champions back in the day with us.
Yeah,
I
it's
felt
exactly like that.
Of like, okay,
Totally.
here's finally like my little ADS. Now I can aim for it and I know where I need to go. And so I really like that. I'm loving Luigi's Mansion. I think if you have a Nintendo Switch, you're doing yourself a disservice not getting this game because not only is it fun and beautiful, single player, can be co-op as well with Gooigi, and you can also play up to 8 players in a co-op fun multiplayer mode. I mean, this game has a lot of depth to it. It seems really meaty as well. Like Tom talked about, Tom's like 6 hours in. I'm about 3 to 4 hours in, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to go for me. So I think this game could top out anywhere between 10 to 15, 10 to 20 hours.
Have you seen? Yeah, I haven't even really read how long it is. And there's, finding all the gems on all the different levels is going to take some time. And I've started to kind of go back to a couple of the early floors within the tower and try to get some stuff. So I hope it is that long.
Yeah.
I do wonder about these games. I mean, it's a little bit, and I know they're not intended to be games that you're going to, play for a year to come. They're not built that way. But I do wonder in some of these, are you going to come back to them after you've kind of beaten them? I do wish, and I want to say on Luigi's Mansion 2 that it felt a lot more difficult, and I can remember really wrestling with it at times, and there did seem like there was some combat that got a little bit complicated. Like you said, you got to shoot a plunger, you got to pull the plunger, then you got to flash them, then you got to suck them into the vacuum, and there was like a whole lot of stuff going on. I hope that as I get further in the game, it gets a little bit harder, because there are some times I feel like I'm whipping through parts of it a little more quickly than I would want, but outside of that, I mean, I'm catching myself laughing at stuff just because it's just they just do such a good job. I mean, they're just genius level designers when it comes to games like this. It's just perfect. And dude, the audio, I sent out a tweet earlier about, man, if you really listen to all the different audio cues, the music, just the little noises that he makes, the audio in this game is just absolutely spectacular.
Oh, it's great, Tom. It's definitely a must play, and I think you will start to feel a little more difficult because when you think of the opportunities that you can have, right, of like now you can use Gooigi, you can send him on the opposite side of the map and switch back and forth when you need to. And so I think there's going to be some more boss battles later on that'll really use that mechanic to the fullest of you're somewhere with one of the guys and then on the opposite side you're over there
and
with
you
them.
have to fight
and I think you're going to have to balance that. So I think that will be really cool to see. But all in all, I love Luigi's Mansion. It's been a great Halloween treat, that's for sure. But
it's a great idea
one,
releasing it on Halloween, right? Isn't that a cool idea? It was perfect. I mean, how often do stars align that you can have a game that releases right when it needed to, given all the delays we've seen here over the last little bit with just the industry in general? It was perfect. Perfect.
Oh, it was perfect, Tom. And you know what? RIP, because I came back after PAX West with you, Tom, and I told you one thing. I really wanted to play Sony's Medieval remake, and unfortunately, I have not gone back to that because Luigi's Mansion came out on Halloween. There's so many other games. This is the perfect Halloween treat, and I really wanted to go and play that game. I even purchased it, and I haven't touched it yet, so I'm really messing up on that. Let's go and talk about another spooky game or, a little more violent and hardcore. Tom, you've been playing something. I played the first one, and I can't wait to hear about the sequel. Tell me all about it.
Wow, so The Surge 2, and I only played a little bit of The Surge 1, and we had, within like a week, I don't know if you sort of caught when all this was going on, so within like a week, 3 of these very similar Dark Souls-esque Soulsborne games all came out right at the same time. Actually, 4 of them did. So it was Remnant from the Ashes that came out, Code Vein.
Got that, Code Vein.
Right, and The Surge 2. And so I played all of them, and then there was a couple of other sort of lesser ones that weren't. There was the one that we saw, the indie one, that was in the Kind of Funny showcase that was really similar to.
Oh, Decay of Logos?
Decay of Logos,
I played that. I loved it, Tom. Oh, my gosh.
Ditto.
I forgot to tell you, I loved it.
Ditto, and I just didn't get far enough into it because it was really hard and really punishing. But so I was a little bit, of the 4 of those, because as everybody that's watched any of our podcasts or knows me at all knows, those are some of my favorite games. All the Soulsborne stuff will always be my favorite games. That style of game I just really dig. And so I wasn't sure which of that bunch was going to sort of fit the bill. And it really turned out to be the Surge 2. I put about 2 hours into all the ones I just mentioned, right? So I played a couple hours of Code Vein, a couple hours of Remnant, which just kicked the crap out of me, and I still can't get past the first boss. And then the Surge. So, man, this one is so hard to describe, Mike, but the best way that I can describe it, so it really is, very similar construct of a Dark Souls game when it comes to, one-on-one or one on just a couple combat, very slow, very methodical, lots of gear, lots of upgrading that gear, sort of a vibe, right? Lots of exploration. You're not really sure where to go, what to do, but it's all very futuristic-y. So it's not based on like a medievally world. It's a lot like the first Surge, right? So it's a lot of prosthetics and augmentations and stuff that are more sort of mechanical in nature, which makes it really interesting. But here's the kick, man, and this is where this game, I think, absolutely changed and nailed this. And I would love this if this ever got into Dark Souls, which is every enemy you fight, you have a choice while you're fighting him. And I won't get into all the complicated systems that sort of where as you figure out what to do. But your primary way of getting equipment is to slice arms, legs, heads, bodies off of your enemies at just the right time in order to kill them and preserve their weapons. But you have to sort of balance between because it's very punishingly hard, just like Dark Souls. People can kill you in 2 hits if you're not careful. So it's like, do I want to screw around and try to get a piece of armor off this guy or this weapon, or do I just want to go for the kill? Because if you make the wrong decision, you're going to, just like Dark Souls, you're going to die over and over. So, dude, it is the coolest mechanic that, I wish more games would do, because it's such a crazy risk-reward system that happens in every single fight that you're in, kind of up to a point, because certain enemies only have certain types of weapons or certain types of armor. So eventually you don't need to keep, once you've gotten that armor off that guy, you don't need to keep killing him that same way over and over again, since like all those games, the enemies respawn after, you die or after you hit sort of the checkpoints. But dude, it is the coolest. And what's crazy is, think of that principle when you're fighting a boss, right? So the bosses are just, you're going to definitely die the first dozen times you fight any boss in that game, because you got to figure out, their attacks and all that. But you can completely, if you kill them the wrong way, which is funny to say, you can miss out on getting their weapon. You can miss out on getting their armor. You can miss out on, there's like 3 early game bosses that I'm just, panically trying to kill, but I forgot to hack off his arm, so I didn't get his badass, crazy fire sword thing, or he has this awesome helmet, and I just forgot, at the very end, you're just freaking out trying to get through the fight. But man, this game is really addicting. It, without going into too much detail too, it's got a really interesting block mechanic that you're not just blocking, you can't tank block, you can't just sit in front of somebody. It's multi-directional blocking, so you have to, as they're coming at you, you get a signal, a little bit sort of like, think of like Batman Arkham style. Is he coming left? Is he coming right? Is he behind me? Is he in front of me? And so as you're parrying, which parry is also always a difficult mechanic, not only do you have to parry the timing, you got to parry the direction.
That's
so
cool.
If he's coming from the side, you got to like parry and you got to get the side correct, or they just drain your stamina bar like immediately and open you up for an attack. So if you miss it, you just get waylaid afterwards, right? So anyway, it's a lot of talking, but man, this game's a lot of fun. Anybody who's into the Soulsborne kind of stuff, just because it's different enough. It's not an exact replica copy like some of these games can be. And that primary mechanic of having to not only kill, but figure out how you kill is such a cool twist, dude, that it gives this game so much life, way past any other game like this that I've seen, because there's so much stuff to gather up if you kill people the right way.
That's awesome, Tom. I am a big fan of the Surge. We've talked about it before. I love Dark Souls and Bloodborne. I love that Soulsborne kind of video game and the genre that they've created. And it's a really cool one for me to want to play those games more often, because I really have found a love for them. But I think the setting plays a big factor for me, and that's why I like the Surge. Is like, it's totally different, right? Like Code Vein is still kind of close in the Soulsborne area, you know what I mean? Sekiro was kind of different, but still similar. Like, nothing is like, hey, here's futuristic tech, which I really like that like totally off the wall different. I love that you talked about kind of the upgrade in blocking and parrying. That reminds me of For Honor, which was really all about sword play and blocking, and that was more of like, hey, we're going to go really in depth with what a sword and blocking mechanics would feel like with the different directions and blocking at the right time at the right location. So that's cool that they elevated that, and I love hearing the idea of trying to cut off a certain body part of a boss to get that boss item. That reminds me, and I don't think they used it that much in the Dark Souls trilogy, was you could shoot off the red dragon's tail to get the sword, or you could cut off the bell tower gargoyle's tail to get the big axe. But I think that was like the only ones where they incorporated something like that into kind of like a boss fight mechanic where you might, if you chop off this or if you hit him just right, it will drop that part off, you know?
Dude, and what's crazy, I love those fights in those two, because you're exactly right. There was a couple of oddities, or if you had to, go back and you fought him a certain way. But dude, what's crazy is, and I haven't seen exactly where this is going to go yet, because I haven't finished the game. And if I'm being really brutally honest, the reason I haven't touched Outer Worlds or COD or After Party or these ones I know that you have is because I've been sucked into the Surge 2, and I'm serious, man. Like, of all the weird games for me to get pulled into, like, all these big bangers are coming out in AAAs, and I've been playing the Surge 2 because I want to get to the end of it that much, because it's that sort of an interesting game to me. But what's crazy is what I was going to say. I can only imagine people's experiences being radically different, because some of the stuff that you may have missed cutting off of a boss can totally alter the way that you play the game. Like, you have this little combat drone that goes along with you the entire time. And if you didn't happen to kill a certain enemy a certain way, there may be upgrades for that thing that you just never get. So you never ever get to see what it's like. And I've watched some YouTube videos and some streamers. I'm like, where the hell did they get that? And I'm like, oh my God, I had one shot at it. I missed it because the bosses don't respawn, right? The normal enemies will respawn if you kill one and you forgot to get whatever. Just go to the checkpoint, he's there again. But dude, not the bosses. So you have this one shot to like figure out as you're watching him kill you. It's like, oh my God, what is that cool piece of gear he's got? I want it, right? And then you got to target that limb all while you're getting the crap kicked out of you by a boss. So it's actually really cool. Anyway, I can't wait to finish it. I have to have put 40 hours into this game if I've put a minute into it. That's how much I'm enjoying it.
I'm glad to hear that, Tom. I know you love that genre, so that's awesome. That kind of hit at a sweet spot right there. And a mix of 3 other games, if not 4 games, and that's the one that you chose, so that's cool. Tom, we forgot the biggest title that just released earlier at the top of the show, and that's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Tom. I don't know how I forgot it, because I am addicted to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and that's hard to believe, because I used to call it Call of Booty or Call of Rage, because I hated Call of Duty back in the day. I think I stopped truly enjoying it at about Black Ops 2. That's when I kind of hit my old man moment at about 22 years old, when you're just not fast enough anymore to compete with the teenagers. And I'll tell you, I never enjoyed Call of Duty. I became more of a Battlefield fan in that aspect. But all of a sudden, this Call of Duty Modern Warfare has got me, Tom. I love that we are back with boots on the ground. I know that saying has been used way too much, but it's true. Now we're not playing futuristic warfare. Nobody has a special move that I don't like seeing at the end, where you're calling in a dog, you have a grenade launcher, or you're power bombing somebody from the top ropes. Like, this is truly boots on the ground. You pick your gun loadout, go hit it, 6v6, 10v10s, 20v20s, and onward. I think they've done a truly great job on the PvP side. I haven't played the campaign yet, but I can tell you on the PvP side, I am loving Call of Duty Modern Warfare and just can't get enough with me and my friends.
Man, that's awesome. And this is another one that I've been sitting on since the day I bought it. In fact, it's like I was so excited about Ground War in particular, since I'm a way, way bigger Battlefield player and lover than I am anything that Call of Duty's ever done. I've always farted around with them, but never enjoyed them that much, like you. A couple things. I can't believe you haven't done the campaign yet, because I think I'm gonna start there, just because everything I've seen, watched a lot of people tweeting about it. I think I'm gonna do that before I get into Ground War. I've watched a bunch of Ground War, like in the background. I've seen people playing it. Man, it looks so much like my style of game and kind of game when it comes to multiplayer. I think it's even up to like 65, 64. I mean, it's big team battles,
it's like 30
right?
versus 30. They haven't hit.
Yeah.
They kind of hinted that they have 200 to 300 person modes, but we haven't seen that yet. This is like 64, like you said, like 32 area.
I can't even imagine those. And it looks, like you said, the thing that I never liked about Call of Duty, and you hit the nail completely on the head, is just all the perks and weird stuff and all the craziness. Like, I suck at multiplayer games, and balance is really important to me. And if I can play a game where everybody's decked out the same, like Rocket League or something, sign me up. Like, I don't need people that have a way better gun because they've, sat in their basement and played 3,000 hours of the game. Like, I could never get me in a game like that. This game seems like you can, and I get why they have that, because they want people to have progression and they want them to feel like they're giving them something as they play. But from what I've seen, dude, this seems like they've done a really nice job of not like bifurcating the community of people. Like, if you don't play it a ton, it's okay. You can compete as long as your skills are okay, meaning people aren't going to, like you said, jump off the top rope with some crazy ass, kill streak thing that, like, where did that come from kind of stuff, right? So, dude, I know you did your tournament last night, so I want to hear about how that was.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the 2-on-2 thing, I mean, that to me, I've watched hours and hours of that. Walk me through like what that's been like for you.
So, Tom, I was going to move right into the 2v2 because you kind of transitioned perfectly of, like, you talk about Call of Duty and the progression and kind of getting that gun or that stabilizer at like level 99 that you might not ever get. And I truly believe right now you could jump in at level 1 to level 50 and you can't compete, right? They've done a good job at balancing. Every gun feels like it can compete. And of course, as you progress, it feels like that gun gets moderately better every single time. Well, let me tell you about my favorite mode right now, Tom, and that's 2v2 gunfight. And 2v2 is awesome. If you don't like the run and gun, constantly respawning, getting shot in the back, 2v2 might be up your alley because it's literally a small cage match. They have their own 6 dedicated maps to this 2v2 gunfight mode that they are calling cage match style. They're very small. They're mirrored on both sides, so everybody has the same obstacles and things to hide behind. And every other round, it changes the loadout for you. So you actually can't come into the game with your own preferred loadout. Every other round, so every 2 rounds, you are with their loadout. So it could be a shotgun and a pistol. It could be an SMG and an assault rifle, a sniper rifle and a pistol, an LMG and a shotgun. And it changes every other round. So it actually gets you playing a wider breadth of guns that you might not play in a 6v6 setting or more of a competitive setting, which is really fun. And then after 2 rounds, you switch to something new. So you might be stuck with a pistol and just your fist and be like, man, this sucks. Next round, it's going to change completely. And it's really fun because the rounds are only 40 seconds long. So it's first team to either kill the other 2 opponents, or if that 40 seconds timer goes up, there's going to be a middle point that you need to capture, which is the flag, and it'll be up there for 10 seconds. So you can either capture that point, kill your enemies, or if none of you do any of that, whoever has the most health at the end of that round will win it, and it's first 1 to 6. So it's very quick, always fast. Some teams stand back and hang tight. Some people rush up and get right into the battle. And so to host our tournament that we segued into was really cool, right? It's cross-platform play right off the launch. So that means anybody on PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4 can come play with each other, which is the greatest, especially for a tournament setting of now. I don't have to buy Call of Duty on PlayStation to appease my friends over there. I don't have to buy Call of Duty on Xbox to appease my friends over there. Everybody can play no matter where they are, which is great. And this has the second best spectating mode that I've ever seen in a video game behind Overwatch. This spectating mode is awesome. You get to fully customize everything. It's almost like you are in charge of a Call of Duty World League production. You can set the name tiles. You can set up the team names. You can see them with the X-ray vision. You cannot see them with X-ray vision. You can put up player cards and see what their stats are. You can drop a mini map. Like, there are so many cool options for you to be able to do. And the only thing that's missing in this spectate mode that I wouldn't tie it up with number 1 with Overwatch is they don't have maybe the hover cam where you can fly around the map. And they don't have set cameras. No matter what, you have to be.
Yeah, Battlefield's got those.
You have to be ride or die with the 4 or however many people are playing. So, like, you're always in a person's view, as opposed to maybe you'd like that one sweeping shot of like the whole battlefield, or ride the hovercraft above everybody and see it like it's an NFL broadcast. But to be able to have a spectate mode where, man, we had 3 spectators, 4 people playing, didn't affect the lag, didn't, max out the lobby. We all could spectate. We all could shoutcast, was really something special. So the tournament was perfect. We did 2-on-2. It was fast-paced action. We had the OK Beast Boys. Shout out to the OK Beast Squad.
Alex
they took home the championship.
Andrew.
Papa Drew Bear and It's Van Aken, and they played really well. It was really fun. My favorite part, Tom, like we've always talked about, is like hosting these community tournaments is for the community, right? Like it gives everybody a good reason to come together on a Sunday night, play video games together, compete on a fun and friendly basis, and then, of course, I get to selfishly shoutcast. But to see everybody in different games, we've played Mario Kart, we've played Mario Tennis, we've played Super Smash Bros., we've played Rocket League, we've played Dragon Ball Z Fighters, we've played now Call of Duty, we've played so many games, and every single week it's somebody different that comes up and shines from our small community, right? It's like, could be Cameron one day from Reno. It could be the OK Beast Boys. It could be Kevin. It could be anybody. And it's so cool to see, like, all of a sudden this person is the one that's winning. And those 2 guys, they ran the gambit. We only had 1 series out of, the 4, 4, 8 that we played that went to game 3 in best of 3 series. So it was really fun. A lot of cool stuff. And like I said, there was no disadvantage of not playing as much. The 2v2 gunfight is like, here's the small cage match, and here, guess what? You don't get to choose your gun loadout. It chooses it for you, so everybody's on an even pace.
That's such a cool idea for this too. And by the way, that's got to be one of the very best things now when it comes to these community. I love that you do this, man. I've told you a million times. Like, I think it's one of the coolest things, people to get together and, have tournament style thing. It's just, thank you for doing that, because I think everybody totally appreciates being able to do that. But this is almost like the perfect game mode for this in a lot of ways, right? Because like you said, it's fast. There's no giant differentiation between, people who've been playing the game a lot, or not. I'm sure, of course, people who play the game more are going to be more skilled at certain parts of it, but it allows everybody to come in. Now, most of all the different ways that those matches could go, at least the ones I've seen, and I don't know if this is indicative of just the streamers I was watching, it seems like most of them ended not with, it seems like people fought each other. They didn't just sit back and do the capture the point. Were most of them people killing each other kind of stuff?
Depends on the team. Like you said, I would probably go with like a 60-40, maybe 70-30 split of more teams killing each other, and then as opposed to going to overtime and grabbing the flag. But when you get into those later rounds of the semifinals and the finals, you're looking at twosomes that are really good at the game. They kind of know the sight lines, or they know their approach now, right? They've gotten through the first round, the second round. They made it to the semis of like, hey, we should push up with this gun, or hey, on this map, we should take this area, or hey, our strategy should be, let's take a deep breath, let's use the new mounting mechanic that you can mount up on a wall and really reduce the recoil, and try to use sightlines to our advantage. So later on in the games, we started to see teams kind of step back, take a deep breath, and be like, okay, let them move first. And like I said, it's only 40 seconds, so it's moving. If both teams stand back and wait, we're going to get to overtime. So it's a little heavier on killing, but it is like, hey, guess what? You can have that. We're really excited about 2v2s like you touched on. It's really fun to do this to the community, and we've always had games that are 1v1s, 2v2s. We've maxed out at about 3v3s on Rocket Leagues, and the issue is like, it's really great for the community because you don't have to know anybody. You don't have to have a huge squad. You can come in and play a 2v2 or find a partner in the chat. We would love to one day, like we did with Overwatch once, of actually have like 6-man teams coming in and have our own real life Call of Duty tournament. But that's tough, right?
Good.
To like look at Tom on a Monday and be like, hey, by next Sunday, you need to have 6 people all on time, all available all night long to play, which is very tough. When we did the Overwatch tournament, we barely got 2 teams, and Kevin had to play in it while shoutcasting. So like, it was very difficult to try to get just amount of people, but that 2v2 is just perfect to do with that mode.
So it's the parts that I've seen of it, especially because you mentioned sight lines, and it's the thing that, for me, as a guy who doesn't play a lot of multiplayer, that I'm really not skilled at games like Siege for that reason, is because I'm not peeking through 3 doorways and know sort of all the different ways you can. I'm just running out in the middle and, getting myself killed in most cases. So it really is more like Siege, don't you think? Sort of that mode is more like Siege?
I think all of Call of Duty, it's elevating the gunplay, right? From that normal run and gun style or just aiming down the sights where you're kind of like exposed to now you can see them, right? Like it's not quite like Siege where you can lean to the sides and get behind things. You literally run up to a wall and mount on it, which is now elevating the gunplay of like, hey, here's another way to play. Or, hey, we're going to see these pro teams later on in the year with the Call of Duty World League going to come out, and there will be guys who are mounted up on a wall that know the sight line that will be waiting for you to come through. And so I think they continue to elevate the gameplay and the opportunities that you can do to play instead of just running, gunning, dying, restarting it all. Like there's going to be some really cool ways to play, and I'm excited now that you've added the mount mechanic. Do you start to add in the Rainbow Six lean with it either side? Like how elevated will they take this next on the next game or next version,
Yeah, for me, yes, I agree with you, and it's super fun to watch those two. And there's nothing better than Battlefield had a mode called Gunsmith. I don't know if you ever heard of this mode before, where it would be like a normal sort of team deathmatch, but you had to progress through 25 different weapons and get a kill with each weapon. So everybody starts off with a throwing knife. Right, and and as soon as one person gets a kill with a throwing knife, that one person gets to move on to a pistol. Then it moves on to like maybe a little Uzi. Then it moves on to an AK-47, and then it went up the whole list of guns. And most people would never have tried a ton of those guns. Like you get very set in your ways. But it also created a really weird dynamic where everybody was in a rush to get. Because it wasn't like everybody got the gun. You have to do your own.
Yeah.
Right, and so. I love game modes where they kind of, or think of like a hand grenade only. I think, and Fortnite's been doing some of that too. I noticed where they'll have like I think it's a throwables only mode or a, throw up or shotguns and rocket launchers mode. The more of those kind of fun things these guys can do with these games, I think the better these games are, where they're not just set in their, they create the sandbox, they give you the tools, and then they force you to use maybe tools you would never have used before. Dude, I can't wait between that and the Outer Worlds, like, and unfortunately we got Death Stranding coming out. We've got Star Wars coming out. There's still some huge games coming out, but those are going to be my next two, like, sort of put tons of time into games.
Definitely, Tom. There's a lot going on, and I'll end the Call of Duty segment like this, like we talked about with Gears 5. Call of Duty, Activision, and Infinity Ward did an incredible job this year, giving you so many ways to play that really elevate the sales pitch, elevate why you should be interested in Call of Duty. A killer campaign that everybody's been talking about, whether it be decisive moments, whether it be things that people don't like or do like. They have a campaign that is making a lot of headways. Multiplayer has been elevated to the next level. It's great. It's everything you could expect. And then on top of that, if you don't want to play PvE, or PvP, you don't want to play single player, guess what? They now have Spec Ops, which me and Tom talked about this before recording. There's another mode for you to go out and play with your friends where it's PvE situation like Horde mode and different game types where you have so much to do, just like Gears 5, that there's really no reason why you should be hesitant because you can play it all. You can't look at Call of Duty now and be like, I'm not good at the PvP. I shouldn't buy this game, because they have a wide breadth of games that you can now check out.
Totally agree, man. I think it's great.
Well, we are getting a little long, so we're going to do 2 final games. I'm going to let Tom take over this one, and then I'll finish out our games that we've been playing segments. So, Tom, why don't you tell me about a fun racing game?
I will, and I'll be quick because I know we are getting kind of long. So, Grid. So, I've been playing Grid and been playing a lot of Grid. As a bit of a sort of precursor to this, I've gotten a little frustrated with racing games over the last couple of years, specifically on Forza, for a very specific reason that I think going back to Grid and some games that are set up the way it is kind of scratch the itch, which is this. I don't know if you noticed this. I'm sure you did. But playing Forza Horizon in particular, it doesn't matter one iota if you finish first, third, or 12th. Like, it's a racing game that doesn't really care where you finished in the race. You progress the race either way. Early in that series, you used to have to kind of be in the top 3. They at least tracked sort of like podium finishes and you had some idea of where you finished. And then in the last Forza, which I dug, by the way, so I liked whatever the last Forza Horizon 3 or whatever it was. But man, it legitimately didn't matter where you finished. And there was no, I love the fact that you can set all the different sort of, assists and all that, but it didn't matter. All you did is get a few more credits at the end, whatever. So I've had this problem with the recent batch of racing games that have not been about winning or losing. It's just strictly been about enjoyment of the game, which again has its place. I'm not bashing it, but it took, sort of not my thing. Well, dude, this game. So first of all, Codemasters, if you know, sort of their racing lineage, man, they have made some of the greatest racing games of all times. They have such brilliant car physics. Like the actual just racing experience of their games has always sort of been top notch, right? Whether it's the Grid series itself or Dirt or any of the ones that they've sort of done. But I will tell you, man, this game, so it is probably the most, and again, like all racing games, you can kind of set the challenge based on the assists of where you want it. But man, it is pure freaking racing. Like it is white knuckle, hang on to the edge of your seat, speed, not arcadey though. So it's this really sort of interesting mix of the realism of like a Forza or close, but with the speed of like not quite a Burnout, but it's a really super fast, like you're hanging on around corners, afraid you're pushing it too hard. But if you don't, you're obviously not going to do well. And you do have to finish in the top 3 in order to progress. So you can't just monkey around and finish in last place and think you're going to progress the game. You actually have to progress and you have to win or you have to come close to winning, right? And another, fantastically great AI. One of the things about, sort of, especially when you don't play multiplayer racing games are really difficult because you get a lot of jabronis out there that'll just wreck, right? It's really hard to do multiplayer. Doing it against a PvE, usually the AI sucks or it's super rubber banded, right? So it's like it never mattered if you got way out in front or behind. Dude, this game nails AI like almost no other game that I've seen. You have people wiping out in front of you, behind you. It feels like, and it really genuinely feels like each different driver has his own sort of driving style and personality that you can kind of get used to the names on the track over time of like, oh my God, this dude's kind of wild. He's going to push me from behind. This guy's a little bit more conservative and he's going to sort of block me, whatever those, sort of racing mechanics are. But dude, they can get in as big a wrecks as you could if you were like playing pure multiplayer. So you'll have these tremendous wrecks around you and in front of you that you have nothing to do with. All the way through some, like I said, incredibly sort of sophisticated AI and how other people kind of push you and race you. Dude, this game is so good. If you like pure racers, like I want to go toe to toe with people. I want to win. Find your difficulty level and you can kind of tweak a whole bunch of stuff to find what the one for you is. Man, this game is so good, Mike. You and I know you like racers too. And maybe for your Logitech wheel, this might be like the perfect one to sort of throw in there. This is a must-own racer if you're into racing games. It's the best one I've played in years.
Wow, that's some high praise coming from my racing master right there from Tom is right. So that's good to know. I'm definitely interested in it. I need another excuse to bust open the wheel. I totally agree with you with Forza Horizon, right? I think it was more tuned for the experience, right? Like that wasn't Forza Motorsports where you're on the track racing for gold. It was, hey, guess what? We're going to go run over a bunch of farmland. We're going to bust through trees.
Sheep.
You're going to race this guy that's in a hovercraft. Like, I don't think it was ever for going for gold. It was strictly the experience, like you said, which is good and bad in some sense of the word,
For sure.
So we'll end this HypeCast with my final game that I've been playing. I'm going to talk about Nintendo Switch Ring Fit Adventure, Tom. Now, I always have been a big advocate for getting up, getting active, moving, and having fun. And I think over in the Connect days for 360, I think Microsoft did a really good job at trying to say, along with Nintendo Wii, let's not forget about the Wii here, my apologies. But I think Microsoft did a really good job at trying to engage gamers and say, hey, we have this Connect product. We want to get people up in their house. We want to get them moving. And I really bought into that back on the 360, one console that I know and loved. And there was a lot of cool games from Wipeout to different, Connect Sports Adventures that would encourage people to get up and play. And I loved that idea. And so here we are, kind of hitting the end of the Connect generation where we will probably never see a Connect ever again over in the Microsoft world. But Nintendo Switch said, hey, you know what? We have some cool ideas. We want to come out with something. And they came out with something that people kind of gawked at, shook their head at, similar to Nintendo Labo and their cardboard cutouts that you could make. And that was Ring Fit Adventure, which is this crazy black ring that is like you push in or you push out. And it's like this weird piece of plastic that you can move back and forth, and then a leg strap. And I love Ring Fit Adventure because you get up and you move. They have so many options in the game, from the little story mode campaign that are cool, pre-designed workouts for you to feel like you're playing a video game at all ages while moving and working out and getting yourself active, to, hey, we actually have set designed workouts and different sort of exercises that you can pinpoint certain muscle groups in your body, and we'll do this for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you can set how hard or how easy you want them. And I'll tell you, nothing has kicked my butt more than Nike Fit Plus Trainer back on the Xbox One with the Kinect than this Ring Fit Adventure. I mean, I did one workout, I was sweating, my body hurt, and it took me to the edge, and I had a smile on my face the whole time. So I really applaud Nintendo with their new product of the Nintendo Switch to say, hey, let's not put these kind of games to rest that we've seen with the Wii, the Xbox, and the Kinect, and say, you know what, let's try one of these. Let's see how it goes. And I think Ring Fit Adventure, if you are somebody that has kids, or if you're somebody like me who might get intimidated by going to the gym, always wants to work out at home but doesn't know how to work out at home, or doesn't really have the motivation sometimes, and really is like, I need video games all the time for the stimulus, you should look at Ring Fit Adventure because it gets you up and moving, it gets you active, it gets you sweating if you want to put in the work, and it's a lot of fun. I'm loving it right now.
So the only thing that I didn't understand, but there's like mini games within this, right? So you're actually doing something that's going to ultimately be kind of like any of the other past iterations of that, right? So like what are the types of games and stuff that you're doing within it?
So when you talk about games, right? So like you have the story, then you have these mini games, right? So you might be rowing a canoe or a kayak. You might be pressing in like this and then pulling out to, inflate a balloon or pop a bubble or shoot at different little enemies that they've put around as targets as you move from different areas. But those are kind of the mini games. I don't really look at it as that. I look at it as like on their third option, which is just straight up the exercises and the workouts, right? Like you can do a 20-minute yoga session and it shows you where your arms need to be with this, what we're going to do with it. They push you back and forth, and then they tell you if you're in the right stance, because it can tell with those gyroscopes inside where you're standing and what your positioning is. So the mini games are just fun ways to kind of like keep the stimulus up and maybe keep somebody active or attentive with it. But really, it's more focused on the exercises and the movements that you should be doing. And I think they do a good job incorporating the mini games in the Ring Fit Adventure itself in the story campaign to keep you kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm blowing up a balloon, or I'm racing a robot to the finish line, or I'm shooting out little enemies as I go in and out this way and then in and out that way. So I think the mini games are just tied to it to keep younger audiences or people that need that stimulus activated.
That's a great idea, man. The more of these, I mean, you think of all these new ones too, like the Pelotons of the world and all these sort of at-home workout things. I mean, this is such a huge business and a big market, and those things are so incredibly expensive and have these subscriptions and stuff to go with it. Man, I'll have to check this one out. Like
I think it's really
remember
fun.
Seeing it. Yeah.
And the girls and you would have a great time. I think, when you talk about having a more beginner focus or having a 10-minute workout, and especially with you and the family, like, everybody doesn't need to hold on to the ring or the wristband. You could give your youngest daughter or your other daughter the ring, and then the rest of you stand in the background and just mimic the moves, and you all would feel like you're doing something, having fun. So it's really cool. And yeah, you touched on it well, Tom, of like the Peloton is one. I just got an ad on Instagram for literally a mirror, Tom. It's a mirror that has a program where you click on it and it shows you workouts in the mirror. And it's like,
crazy.
This is it. They're trying to get a way to get you active because people are intimidated going to the gym. Some people want to work at home, but they don't know how to do it, right? Like, I could do push-ups and sit-ups for days at home, but I don't know if that's paying off or not. And I would love for somebody to be there and be like, hey, let's get the stimulus going. Let me show you how to actually do it. And I love that Nintendo is like, hey, let's not put these games to rest quite yet. Let's try it. And I think it's working out well. I hope that it sells well as well.
It's a great idea. What they're now, 50 million consoles or whatever they're up to?
Oh, they had a great sales. We'll talk about that maybe on the next HypeCast. But this will conclude episode 6 of the HypeCast with SnowBikeMike and Tom Bock. We're going to leave you with this. Get up. Go get active. Walk the dog. Take a walk down your local block. Breathe in that nice fall air. On behalf of myself and Tom Bock, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe on youtube.com/SnowBikeMikeGaming. Give us a 5-star rating on podcast services around the globe because it means so much to us. And if you leave a comment, me and Tom will read them off next episode and see who's listening, who's watching. But we always appreciate your continued support. And I appreciate you, Tom Bock, for joining us. Thank you so much. Any final words?
Love doing this, man. And we got some good topics for our next one, too, that we didn't get to today. Little Fallout, maybe, some NBA Live, BlizzCon. Man, BlizzCon was crazy.
Yep, and Death Stranding right around the corner. So make sure to hit that follow button, and we will see you guys back here next week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. See ya.
See ya.